It says it's storing to the cloud. If not, I have to record it to my computer.
Okay, I'd store it to the cloud, and then we'll figure out how to get them off of there for Carrie. I'm not sure how that all works.
Yeah, I recorded last week's on the cloud too, so.
Okay.
All right, everybody can see my app file screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So we want to see everybody, so I hope everybody's showing themselves today. Yes, I get to see everybody. Yay. Even though I can't see all of you at the same time, so.
The perfect crowd. They're showing us themselves.
This is awesome. So again, this is a 201 class, so we're going to work more on some of the intermediate functions in Appfiles, like splitting your forms, your pages, how when you upload a document to add initials and signatures, how to import from one form to another in the same app file. And those are just some of the basics I want to touch on today. Of course, we have till 11, and if I'm done with that early enough, we can, kind of do a Q&A. But as always, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. So I have to get my test file. Okay. Everybody on here, I think, is pretty much, you all know how to get into Appfiles and sign in and all that. So, oh, we're getting more. That's good. We're up to 12. Yay. Yeah. Morning. So I always have what I like to, and I always show this to you guys, what I call what not to do. Okay?
Kathy, can I interrupt for 1 second? I have a big block in the middle of my screen that says this meeting is being recorded. Is there a way to get rid of that?
Let me see if it's because it's on my screen. Why is
screen? You just click OK.
Well, my screen just got lost. What the heck? All right. So now you guys, can you see this document, the vacant land contract?
Yes.
Okay. This is what I call my what not to do. Okay. And this is going to, when you upload a document, say this is a contract on your listing and your seller wants to make all these changes. This is just too much. This is no, because it's too hard to distinguish who signed, who didn't sign. And there's so many changes that if it were ever had to go to an attorney, could we prove that everybody signed every single change? Probably not. So I always call this my what not to do document. Sorry, I was looking at seeing what was in the chat. Okay. So I'm going to kind of work on those kind of things today. Let me get back into my app file. So I'm going to upload a blank contract. Now, when I have it in my email, and I know we talk about upload, download, email in, if you have it in your email like this, that you scan and email the document to yourself, you can just click on the untitled PDF, or you can open your email, either way. And if you click on the document and download it, it'll download above your system tray. You can go back to your app file and you can upload the file. Okay, so if you just click on the upload in your app file, you can drag and drop the file right here and start upload. And when it's uploaded, it says, okay. I'm very froggy. My allergies are bothering me today. So if I get scratchy, guys, I apologize for that. But when you upload a document, and I know that we've talked about this in the past quite a few times, that every time, whatever function you use to get the document into the app file, it will create a holding section named on how you uploaded it. Because we uploaded this document, it comes in as in the upload holding place. If you were to email it directly into, it would create a holding place called email paperwork. And I can show you how to do that as well. So with the changes, so say this is a contract, which is what I just uploaded. And there's no figures or anything in here, but say that this is a contract on your listing and your seller doesn't. This is probably not going to work the best. I should probably do it the other way because this has nothing on it. But what I'm going to do with this one is I'll just use this to show you how to split them out and how to add your signatures and initials on all the pages, and how to show you to add like seller 3 or seller 4 or buyer 3 or buyer 4. That seems to be a lot of questions that I get. So when you upload the document, it's not in an editable format. It's just in a locked PDF. When you open the actual document that you uploaded, in the right corner of the page, there's a little blue edit button. When you click on that, it's telling you it's to convert it to an editable format. You can save a copy of the original and you won't be able to make changes. I usually don't, because then it means there's one more thing in your app file that you really don't need. But you just let it go into the general paper, and you see it's all grayed out, so you can't really change these functions. And then just start your conversion. And it takes a little minute, but it's doing 14 pages. And I uploaded the contract and like a standard disclosure and affiliated business just to have it at the tail end to show you how to split off pages and that. So once it's done converting, and now it still looks like it's just a plain that you can't do anything. Okay, but let's just say that your seller agrees to everything that's on the contract, and you send this to your seller to initial electronically. I'm not going to do all 15 pages or 14 pages. But what you want to do is, if your seller's in acceptance of everything, you'll see on the side this box popped open. This is your editable fields. You want to click on the add initials, select your role, and we're going to pick seller 1, which under here is just seller initials. With your initials on a contract, you don't necessarily have to put the date with them, but if you want to, you need to click on the box underneath, display the date. And if you do, you click it. If you don't want them, it's okay. But after you choose your role, you must click the place initials. When you come over to your pages, so you have a plus sign, then you just come down here and you click where you want to place those initials. That's the signature box that you're going to add for your seller to sign electronically. Once you've placed it, it's like a yellowish color. If you click on it and make it orange, you can move it anywhere you want on the page. So say you put it in the wrong slot or it's below the line or somewhere else. You can make it bigger, make it smaller. But again, once it's orange, you can move it around. Say you picked the wrong title for it. Say it was supposed to be for a buyer and it's wrong. You can click anytime again. Once it's yellow, if you click it, make it orange, you can go back up to the top and delete the element. And just say, are you sure you want to permanently delete that? You just say yes. What happened to you, Terry? Anyways, so it deleted what I just did. But again, the unfortunate part of this is if it's a 12-page contract, you would have to, if you have 2 sellers, you would have to do this 24 times with just the initials. You have to do all 12 pages for seller 1, all 12 pages for seller 2, and do seller 1 and seller 2 initials on page 12. So again, you just select your role, seller initials, which is defaulted, place the initials, you get your plus sign, and again, click where you'd like it. And you can do seller 1 on every single page, or you can do seller 1 on page 1, seller 2 on page 1. But you did, again, to add seller 2, you just scroll down, seller 2 initials, place, and put it here. So let's say, in this instance, you have a third seller. Say that this is, a trust house or something where there's 4 or 5 people that have to sign. If you needed to add another set of spot for somebody else to sell, for seller initials, you click on your add initials and you scroll down, you see where it says new signer. You put new initials and you're going to put the role in, let's just say it's seller 3. And then you again place initials, scroll down, we're going to put seller 3 here. Again, if there were 4, you would do the same exact thing. You select new initials. Let's just say there's 4, seller 4. So you can add as many as you need. Okay, so this one's kind of close to this one, so I'm just going to click it again and move it. So if that was the case, you'd have to do that on every single page. Okay. Any questions on that part of it? Okay, so I'm just not going to go again. You would have to do page by page by page and do it on every page for each seller 1, seller 2, and if you had seller 3 and seller 4. So I'm just going to go get to the end of the contract, page 12. Again, we're going to add our seller signatures. Again, we're down here on add signatures. You need to select your role, and we're going to do seller signature. Anytime we have an actual signature, you need to have the date. So always make sure you check the box to display the signature date, place signature, and then click there. Now, when you do that, you'll see the date wants to go underneath. So if seller 2 signs and it covers it up, we won't see the date. Just click on the date, get that orange. And I always say you get your 4-sided arrow, and you can move that box over here so to put the date in the right spot. I see a lot of them will come through that you can't read the date of seller 1's signature because seller 2 is right on top of it and you can't read it. So I always advise, try to remember to move that date so we can verify, because that's important when you have the contract for the effective date of the contract. So again, if you wanted to do seller 2, again, just scroll down and we do seller 2. Check the box, make sure the box is checked, place signature. Okay, and again, you can click on your date and put it over here. And if you're not sure if it's covering up, you can move it around a little bit and move seller 1 up. Oop. Okay. So I know that was kind of a quick tutorial, but that at least shows you how when you import, how to add the initials. Now, if your seller, let's just say there's one change that your seller maybe wants to make on this contract.
Kathy, I have a question before you go further.
Sure.
On that page 12, because it gets tight, if you had the 4 sellers like you showed us with the initials, could you put 2 on each line?
In that case, I would put them probably more towards the bottom where you can see them. I would put them down here. Because if you're cramming 4 signatures and 4 dates into this little spot, I would just come up here and just do add new signer. And let's just say it's seller. Oops, I clicked on the wrong box. Seller 3, let's just say, place the signature. And I would just put them down here. That way they're in a spot where, they're not on top of each other, and you can distinguish who is seller 1, seller 2, seller 3.
Thank you.
Okay? As I said, you can try to squeeze one here and one here if you needed to, but then the dates are going to be they're going to be so close to being on top of each other. If you had 4, if you had 3, you could probably put this one maybe up here or like over here. But just to make it clean, as long as the signatures are on that page, unless, I don't think a manager would have an issue with that as long as all the signatures are on here and they're dated. So that was a good question. So let's say I wanted to go back. Let's just say that your seller wanted to change the closing date. Okay, so say that there was a date in there of July 6th. And you wanted to make that change, you would come up into, what I want to do, we're just going to assume that there's a date in there, and you want to do a strike through. So if you click on your single line strike through, again, if you're only making the one change, it's okay. But if you're going to be doing multiple changes, I definitely recommend you do the counter offer box and add a counter offer form. So say that the closing date is wrong and they don't want that. You see where you've got the pink box, and you click it, it's orange. You can move it around. If it's not long enough or too long, as long as it's orange and you get your double arrow, you can make the line as long or as short as you want. And then you can add a text box next to that. So say you want to change the date to, I said it was really July 6th. You click in the box. Let's just say they want to make it July 12th. You would just type in that text in that element, create, and again, it's orange. you can move it. That way you can read it, or you can put it below the line if you want, as long as you can read the change. But if that change is there, the buyers would have to initial that change, and your sellers would need to initial that change. So you would need to add the signature boxes here to initial that change. Okay. Again, I don't like it. And I only say I don't like it. I mean, I see a lot of agents will do it, and I always want to go, no, because they're just, if you make so many changes on the page, it's very hard to distinguish what's changed and that everybody has agreed to the changes. So if your seller wanted to make multiple changes and like do a counter offer, you would go back to your page 11, I think is where the counter offer is. Counter offer rejection, you can put a checkbox on there. Okay, so if you go back to the top, you'll see you have an option on an element to check box. You would just click on that, bring it here, and click in that area. Again, if you click on it, it's green, but if you click it and make it orange, you can move it anywhere you want. You can, if you can get the double arrows, you can make it a little bigger so it's easier to see. And then that way you can, seller can check the box. Okay. So you would check that box, and your seller, of course, if you're doing a counter offer, still has to sign all 12 pages and initial all 12 pages and sign the last page. And then you as the agent would need to create that counter offer form. Okay, so you would just close this out. And again, there's no save on this. Everything we just did is going to automatically save when you close the window. Okay, so there's your 4. Everything that we did is still there. So at this point, you would have to add a counter offer form. So you go close the window you were in, and right there is what we were working on. Again, so we go to our add forms. And I always just type in less is best, but counter. So you'll get your counter offer form. Again, there's not a counter offer, obviously, for CRISP, but always make sure if you're using the Florida Realtors, Florida Bar forms, the FAR Bar forms, that you are using the FAR Bar addendums. I see too many times where haphazardly a CRISP addendum is coming in with a FAR Bar contract. So just as long as make sure that you're using the Florida Legal counter offer. And when you click it, it puts it over here again. It's going to merge the form into the app file. So you click Add Selected Forms, and there's your counter offer form. Always remember to number it, number 1, and you can import the values into your form from your template. Okay, now import from a form, and I know we got hung up on this for quite a lengthy time last week. Import from a form is importing from a form that you already have filled out in your forms. Importing from your info fields is matching fields that are in your template, which is what we fill in when we first create the app file. And then you have the option to import from the MLS. Well, at this point, we want to fill in the information that we have in our template, which has our seller information in it. And if you just click that, it's telling you it's going to pull in 3 values. Choose, and it's going to import the address and the seller's name. And done. Now, you can type in the buyer's name, which you should if you're doing the counter offer. It filled in that, and then whatever changes, whether you're doing purchase price, closing date, that, or if there's any line numbers that you want to change, say that you don't agree with the purchase, the deposit amount or something like that, you do it by line number. So let's just pick a number, like let's say it's 125, and you want it changed to, you want them to put a $15,000 escrow deposit. I'm just using that as an example, but that's all you do, and you just tab through it and do line by line any other changes that you need. Okay? And then once you've done your counter offer, you can attach this form to that contract and email them both from Appfiles to the selling agent. Okay? So again, there are no save changes button here. You can just close, and it's going to save. There's your counter offer form. It puts it in the general paperwork section as a holding place. So we can go back in, and this was our contract. Again, I always tell you guys, rename your documents. When you have them open, because we uploaded it in, it's just showing that it's an untitled. Click the little blue pencil next to the name, And let's just say this is contract 32 bunker. You name it, whatever you want that's going to make you help remember what it is. And you either can hit your enter key or the little green check mark. So now your contract is labeled, and you want to add that counteroffer form. So say your seller signed this contract, check the counteroffer box, and now you have the counteroffer, and it's all signed by your seller. And you want to send them to the selling agent. You can go in and merge this contract with that counteroffer form. Go to your actions, merge forms. When you click the merge forms, it's going to show you what you have in your file. So say you had other forms in there and you wanted to add 2 or 3. If they're in the list, all you have to do is click what you want, and now it's going to add that counteroffer form to the back side of the contract. And then you just merge the selected forms, and you'll have your contract. And at the very end, you'll have, yes, I still have the disclosures, but there's your counteroffer form at the tail end. Okay. Any questions on that part so far? Or do you want me to re-show, or? Nope. I always tell you guys when you're quiet, it means I'm going to end class early and make you guys teach me something. Trust me, I learn something every time I do this when you guys ask questions. So that's just kind of a quick over on that when you have a contract. I did have, this has come up quite a few times. I have where there's issues on the auto balance section of a contract. Okay. So what I'm going to do for right now is I'm just going to add a form just because I want to walk you guys through this. And I want to add an as-is contract. Okay, so I'm going to add the contract to the file. Again, this is my training file, so I just keep adding to it. When you have your contract, okay, in the auto balance, fill it all in. When you get to the purchase price and to the dollar amounts, let's just say that we want to put in an offer of $325,000. You must tab, even if you're not putting something in that field. If you click out of and go down here and type in the title company and then go back up, it's not going to let you auto balance. So we did the 325. We're going to tab. Say we're going to put in a $10,000 deposit, escrow deposit. If you don't want to put anything there, you still need to tab through it and then enter your escrow company. Even if you're not putting address, phone numbers, emails, fax, okay, you need to tab through it. So say on this, if they say the seller is requesting an additional, deposit, just type in, and if this is financing on the auto balance, for it to auto balance, it has to be an actual number. It can't be a percent. So you would need to figure out if it was 80% financing, what 80% would be. So let's just say they're going to finance $280,000. And you tab through, and you'll see all your numbers went down. Okay, so say you made a mistake, and you want to fix something. Okay, you have to go back to the top. Say you don't want that 2,000, or you want that 2,000 to be 5,000. You have to physically go back up, and even if you're not changing that purchase price, tab. Again, you must tab through every field. Okay, so let's just say we want that escrow deposit now to be 5,000. Tab, tab, tab. So you need to see it drop that down to 30,000. Let me check the chat. I know we're going to have questions up. Okay. So, and if you close this document, and this may be where it could be, and if this is an issue, we'll find out now. This is the contract that I just added. Okay, and you closed it, and you go back in, and you got a call from your buyer. Okay, I want to change the price. I need to up it to $340. Whoops, sorry. You got to delete what's in there. $340. You want to keep your $10,000. Now you see the numbers are changing. So as long as you are physically tabbing through every single field. Okay, say we don't want to put in an additional deposit, and now our finance down 80% has changed to $285. Okay, So you have to tab, and if at any time you go out of that tab and you click up here and you go back, it's not going to auto calculate. It's not going to save. Okay. So I just wanted to walk you through that because I know that we get, I get a lot of questions on that and a lot of problems with that one. So let's just say, and this was a request from Randy, sales manager in Fishville, that this is locked. And it, for some reason, is not, because I clicked out and I typed in a zip code or something. Okay, and it locks that figure. You cannot go back in and edit it now. Okay. I hope you resemble that remark. Anyways, so let's just say that's locked. And I'm like, I'm not doing this whole thing over again. Okay, what I'm going to do for just right now, because I'm trying to teach this part of it, I'm going to import information into here just so we have something on the contract. So I'm going to just import values that I have already in my template, just so you guys can at least see something in the contract. Okay, so again, if this is locked and you can't change anything, so let's say we want to change our escrow to 5, and now we want to change our price. See, it's not letting me do anything. Okay, but it will. But if you watch, we want to change it to 352. You see, your number's not going to change because you've clicked out of and clicked through. And it's just weird how it's programmed, but that's just the way it's programmed. So let's say that that's all locked up and changed. Instead of having to redo the whole contract again, or doing a cross through and having your buyers initial those changes, I'm going to close this. Again, here it is, and I'm going to go in and add another as-is contract. If you add the form, add your as-is contract. Okay, and what I'm going to do just for rename it. Let's just say corrected. Or number 2. Just so you'll remember which one is which one. Again, enter or the green check mark. So now you have a clean contract with nothing in there, but you don't want to refill everything out. And this is where you can go into your import values, import from a form. This will pull matching fields from any form that's in the app file. So you click on import from form. And if you had this form in another file, you could just type in the address of that app file that form was in. Okay, so we want to import the information from, let's just say this one. And then you import, you choose, and then you tell it, it's not going to work. Let me try something different here. See, it's even going to stump me in class today. Import values, import from form. I'm just having too much fun today. So Appfiles not liking me today. This is weird. It's got me locked up. So let's close the tab. I'm going to reopen it. Wow. So, hopefully it's not still locked up on me. There we go. Okay. So this is the corrected one. And we're going to open that. And we want to import the information from the other contract. So we're going to, again, go to import values, import from a form, and we're going to choose the general as-is contract. That was the first one. And this is everything it's going to pull in to the new contract. Well, if your finance is locked up in that form, you do not want it to import that information into this contract. So you want to uncheck what you don't want pulled in, okay? So, and then let's just say you're finding any of your dollar amounts. Anything that you uncheck will not import into that new document. Okay, so I uncheck the purchase price, initial deposit, the financing amount, and then just start your import and done. So it's going to pull in the buyer's name, seller's name, excuse me, all that information there, your title, everything that you told it to pull over. Okay, if you had your inspection numbers put in there and your closing date and all that, it would still pull that information in as well. And then you can go back to this and then redo your financing again. 355, initial deposit of 10,000. Again, tab through. Even if you don't want to make any changes, tab through, or you'll be doing this again. Initial deposit of 5,000. Oops. Shift and tab will take you back up if you tab through too fast. So if you do your shift and tab, it'll take you back up a spot. And let's say your financing again is 80%. We'll just put in 280. Okay. And again, as long as you haven't clicked out of anything, you can go back into your finance. Again, anything that you want to change. If you want to delete that additional 5,000 or you want to change your first, you need to tab through. Let's say we want to change this to 15. Because I know I get a lot of calls on this and I know a lot of agents struggle with it, but once it's locked, the only other option is to recreate another contract and redo just page 1, or if this whole contract is all filled out with inspection dates and closing date and all that, is just copy everything from the first one into this new one. That way, the only thing you have to do is change what needs to be changed. And yes, your buyers and or sellers might need to reinitial it, but that way it's a really clean copy. Okay. So are you happy, Randy, since you resemble that remark? Okay. Any questions on that?
Would they need to reinitialize that whole contract then, or just that one particular page that was changed?
You can do just the page 1, and Terry might need to, because I've heard in the past where they would have to redo the whole thing. But I know some managers will allow just page 1 to be replaced and added. But honestly, if you're making that change, it doesn't. If you're doing it electronically, I don't see any reason why sending them a whole clean one is a good thing. I think it's a good thing.
They can just send the front page. They don't have to send the whole contract over.
Right. Because if you're going to do it electronic signature, just do it. It's just as easy whether they're doing 1 page or doing 12 when they're doing it electronically. Okay. So the only thing they're doing different is they're initialing in 11, 12 places and signing in 1. But if you wanted to do it the other way, so this is the one that we corrected. So this is the new contract. And we wanted, let's say, peel off page 1. And we're going to put that on with the other contract. So on your edit pages, you're going to click on page 1 and you're going to split the page. Okay, and we're going to let it go into general paperwork, and we're just going to call it contract, whatever, page 1 only. However you want to, but name it so you know what you named it and where it is. So we've pulled off just the first page, and we're going to close. If we go back again, whatever tab you're in is blue. You'll see page 1 is missing. We're going to close this and go back into our first contract, okay, where the numbers were incorrect. Again, you can merge page 1 in the other page 1 in first, or delete this page 1, whichever sequence you want to do it in. Okay, let's see what we got in chat here before I go in. Oh, sorry, I thought Randy was on. Thank you. All right, so we want to peel this off. You can, again, delete the page 1 first. If you do, you're going to do your edit pages, check on the first page, and you want to delete it. Once you delete it, you can't undo it. So make sure you're in your right contract. Delete pages. Okay. So we're going to go back to our Edit Fields tab. Now we want to merge the other page 1 back on this contract. So make sure everything is labeled so you'll remember which contract is which one. So actions, you want to merge form. and you're going to look for that contract page 1 only. When you click on that, it's going to come over here. You see it's here. You can either drag and drop it here so it goes up on top, or you can do it once you're in there. If you merge the selected forms, it's going to be at the bottom. So if you go to page 12, you see there's page 1. So you want to reorganize them to put them in the right order. Edit page, change form order. And you just grab page 1, put it up there. And again, when you see the Save Changes button, you need to save changes. Okay, so if you go back to your edit fields, you make your tab blue, there's page 1, and then all the consecutive pages there. Okay? Any questions on that? No, it's a lot of work, so either way will work. That's why I always think sometimes it's just as easy to send that whole new contract to make your sellers and or buyers re-sign. Because if not, you're splitting off page 1, splitting it off, adding it on. And if you make a mistake, you're going to redo it again anyways. So, whichever is best for you, you can do either way. Okay, any questions on that? No. All right, so I kind of showed y'all that, splitting forms and splitting pages. Everybody understands the difference between splitting a form versus splitting pages? Because that was I spent a lot of time on that last week, and I just want to make sure people aren't struggling with what the difference is between the pages and the forms.
I have a question.
Sure.
Where, if you're redoing it like you just did, where does that counter offer form go in that? If you don't want to have it all messed up like you said, and you pulled a new form called the counter offer form, can that just get sent back for signature, or does that have to go with the whole contract again?
Well, if it's the first offer that's come through to your seller and your seller's countering, your seller still has to initial all 12 pages of that original contract and sign it and check that counter offer box, and then attach the counter offer form to it. So if it's the original offer. And once you have a fully executed contract, and I actually had this happen in my office last week, because an agent didn't want to put a contract pending because they wanted to do addendums. I said, it doesn't matter. Once that contract is fully executed by a buyer and a seller, you legally have 2 days to get it in the MLS pending. Okay? Any addendums after the fact are just that, addendums. They're not counteroffer. They're going to change whatever additional terminology that needed to be changed from the original contract. So it actually was one that didn't get put pending in the MLS for 7 days. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was a hard lesson learned for that one. I just said, don't do it again. But again, once you have a fully executed contract, even with the counteroffer, because your seller has to initial every one of those pages, the counteroffer has to go with that original offer back to that selling agent. And then the counteroffer, and then maybe another one, then you would number 2, number 3. They all have to kind of be in their sequence. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, good question. All right, so do you want me to show you the difference with your split forms and split pages, or does everybody pretty much understand that? So we're going to have an early class today, maybe. Yeah, no. Those are just issues that were brought up this week to me that I went through, and I'm like, I'm already through all my notes. So you guys are having a good class today. Is there anything that do you want me to show you how to email? Go ahead.
A question.
Absolutely.
The conversation has come up about our legal requirements when it is an LLC or a person acting for. Do they have to supply us with the proof?
With the what?
Proof of ownership of the LLC or the actual paperwork to handle the transaction?
Well, number one, it should be whatever's on the tax records, number one. However it reads on the tax records or on the property appraiser. Usually the deed would show who can sign for it. It usually might say, let's say it's Palm Breeze LLC, and there will be a person's name. If you can't find that information there, Terry, I think that might be kind of a you question if you're still on.
Yes, I'm on.
Because I know
are
they
you-
can go into Sunbiz, but how much of that is on the agent versus the office?
Yeah. Are you talking, Heidi, are you asking about a purchase agreement or are you asking about a listing agreement with the LLC?
A purchase agreement.
With the purchase agreement, they're going to have to submit a form to the title company anyhow. So it would be okay to ask them for that. So you would put like Palm Coast LLC and the care, and then you would have a slash on there and then the person that is signing for it
Okay.
on the purchase agreement.
And should that be uploaded into Appfiles?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, we
Thank
have
you.
an agent in the office that actually does that.
Okay, I was like, so I thought somebody was adding to the conversation. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Michelle, it's being recorded, but where the recordings are going at this point, we don't know. So last week's class, a couple of the classes have been recorded, but they haven't been put into Schmidt resources anywhere yet that we know
Right.
of. So when
We
that
record 'em.
happens,
Yep, we record them and save them, and sometimes we don't know where they're at.
they're in some kind of cloud somewhere. So
Yeah, and it's kind of cloudy out there right now, so I'm not real sure where they're going, but we have them somewhere.
that was a good question, Heidi, because I know you asked me about that this week. And I also know that, you can, any kind of an LLC, if it's a Florida company, you can get it from Sunbiz also.
Yeah.
But usually they have it on the warranty deed for the property if it's an LLC or something like that,
Yeah.
But anyways,
But if a buyer's buying in an
Correct.
LLC, right, you can just go to Sunbiz and check and ask them if they have a copy of it because you want to have their legal name on it. Because sometimes the legal name's on an LLC, they didn't take them off their driver's license. So you might want to be sure that the name is legal in the contract and how they're going to take title.
Absolutely. Good question. All right. I see Barbara just joined us. Is any other questions on anything I've already touched on? No? Come on, throw me some questions, guys. I went through my checklist in 45 minutes, so. No questions? Barbara, are you on? Do you have anything you've been struggling with you want help with?
This is a question I have because I think about it and then I forget to ask someone. So when I'm writing a contract and I'm sending documents to, either the other agent or the title company or someone, and I have the option in Appfiles to send it as a link, when and why would I send it as a link versus just as an attachment?
Maybe if the other person was having issues with their email or something like that.
Okay, so there's no like legal or amazing advantage to sending it as a link.
No.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's helpful.
It's still going to be recorded through because that link still ties it to Appfiles, so it's all still going to be in our behind the scenes.
Okay.
With
that was what I was concerned about. Yeah. You're like, no, I want a record of that went. I want a record of what I sent. Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
okay, cool.
I definitely recommend everything you do, try to do it as much as you can. Because I know Appfiles, I think it was last week when we had the outage with the email program when I was training that they said you could add the link to an outgoing email. Now that link still ties into the app file and it's going to track the IP address, who signed, date, time, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Gotcha.
That link still ties it to the app file.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. That answers the question. Cause I was worried, not that I was selecting the wrong thing, but on my side, there might be an advantage to one over the other.
Right. I would say the more you do through Appfiles, because it's more documented, it's more in the update section and the activity in the middle.
Perfect.
If you use the link in, like, say, your external email, yes, the link and what they do is going to tie to the app file, but it's not going to have all the activity of that email because it's not coming physically from Appfiles.
Okay, makes sense. That makes great sense.
That's a good question, though, because I know last week Appfiles was saying because their servers were having issues to do it separate. And that's actually a very good question. Okay. All right, guys, you got me for another 40 minutes. Come on. Ask some questions. Well, this might be a short class today, Terry. That's okay because we got an office meeting here at 11:30, so I can get going earlier. I just want to cover, the stuff that comes up during the week. And I know last week we spent like a really long time explaining the difference between what the info field and the template mean. Okay. And I think pretty much everybody after last week's class probably understands, but that your master seller template is also your file information. Okay. So when you're doing your import values and it gives you the option, let me just pull this up. If you do your import values, the import from a form, I'll make my page a little bigger. Import matching fields from any form that has already been filled out. That's a form. Okay, your info fields, again, is your, I gotta move you guys out of the way. File information. Okay, yes, I had to close Windows, but your file information and your template are basically one and the same. So when you're doing your import values on a form, the second option of info fields is the same as your template, the file information, matching fields from the file information fields. And then, of course, MLS is self-explanatory. Okay, so there was some confusion on that last week, and I had to say, we'll slow down because they were going too fast and weren't understanding the difference between the two. Okay, so sometimes you just gotta know you're all busy, but just slow down a little bit and just make sure, because what was happening is they were clicking the wrong box and they were upset because it wasn't importing anything into the document because there was no other form in that file it could pull the information from. You got a question for me, John? No? You got to be a pro at this by now, huh? I can't. You're muted, John. That's okay. All right. Anybody have any other questions? Anything you need clarified? Anything you want me to walk you through, show you? No? All right. Well, as soon as we do figure out where the trainings are and get them in, we'll let you know. I'm supposed to, even though somebody didn't email me the reminder, but I happen to be on the call. Some of you are filling out your little passport books and you need a code for the class. So I'm just going to make one up and then I'll give it to you guys. I can put it in the chat. Excuse me. So that way you can fill out your passport books. Okay, so I'll put it in the chat for you guys, and that way you have it for your. Yeah, I can walk through that. I'm going to give you the code though for that's the code for your, if you're doing you need to fill in your passport. Code for passport I'm going to put in there. Okay.
She's not currently in the office today. Do you have her direct line?
Heidi.
I'm gonna, oh, I can't. Just go ahead and mute her, Kath.
I got her. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Where's this code going?
The app, if you're doing the passport, the training book that Deanna explained on her.
That's just Sunstar, Kath. That's just for Sunstar.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
it's something that Sunstar's doing. Yeah.
My bad.
That's okay.
I didn't even think about that. I just put Sunstar only. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Oh, that went just to you, Terry. What the heck?
Okay. That went to yourself because I don't even have it.
So I sent it to me. That's good. That's even better.
Yep.
All right. So, yeah, Barbara, we're still figuring out where they're on a cloud. We got to pull them in, and when we have them pulled and in a space in Schmidt Resources, we'll let you know. We'll send an email out that the recordings are in the education trainings and Schmidt Resources, but right now they're not there yet. We've recorded, I think, the last 3 or 4. Okay, it was like, is there a place I can access the recording? What was the question Michelle Cruz asked?
At some point, those will be uploaded into the Schmidt library.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we got that. So Michelle asked, even though it was more towards it wasn't really at the beginning of the class, Michelle, but I just kind of went over that again, but I'll do it one more time. If you're in a form and you're doing your import values, and I'm going to explain it all a little more. when we just went over, when I said you made a mistake on a contract and you needed to add that second contract, that's when you would use the option to import from another form, because that first contract had everything filled out. Closing date, the title company, the seller, the buyers, the legal description, all that information's already filled in, but you need to redo like page 1 and make those changes. That's when you would use the import from a form. Okay, because you're going to add a new contract and you're going to import from one contract to the other. Okay, so you just would choose, and that's going to import the forms from form to form. Okay, it does not have to be a form in this exact app file. Say you work with an investor and you have a form. I don't know what would be the same that's consistent, but say you have a form that you use every time for that investor in 4 of his other properties in Appfiles. When you do the import values from import from a form, you can choose any app file you want that's in your library of transactions. So if you wanted to pull a form from, let's say, 62 Bunker Lane, I don't say it's in Michigan Avenue because this is one of my training files. You can click that, and then you want to pull it from, there's nothing in the file, from that document, let's say. This is where it's going to lock up again. You just click and choose, and it's going to pull, like I said, there's nothing in that trading file. Obviously, I cleaned it out, but it would import from that if you just change your address, okay? Does he want me to show you that again, or everybody's okay with that part too? Because like I said, I mean, if you have an investor's really, because each time you do a property, each property has to have its own app file, but that doesn't mean you can't copy information from that other template, other app file. Okay, so we'll go back to the import values. Import from your info fields. That again is the matching fields from the file information tab, which is the template that we fill in when you first create the app file. That I always tell you guys, even though it's painful and it takes a while, please do it because it's more benefit than there is to not having it. And that would be to import from the info fields that you have in your template. You can use this import from info fields. Say you have a template, same customer, and you've done business, done another transaction. Again, you can import a master seller template from another app file. Okay? And it'll tell you if it has values or not. And that you can do that also and choose an import from a template from another app file if it's the same customer. Okay, and then of course import from the MLS is pretty self-explanatory. When you're working on a buyer file, we recommend you start, number 1, importing or copying and pasting from the tax record or the property appraisers all the legal information. That way you know it's exact and it's right. But you can also import from the MLS like the seller information if you're filling in a contract. That'll pull in some of that information into your contract. It will pull information into your template on the seller, so it will fill in seller information on the contract that you wouldn't have to go, looking for. Okay? You can do multiple. You can do all 3 imports in every file. You can do it in every form and in every file. You could start and do file from the file information and from a form and from the MLS. You can perform more than 1 import at any time on your forms or in the actual app file. Good question, Michelle.
Kathy?
Yes.
I know on forms I can pre-fill values. Can you pre-fill the values in the info section also?
All right. Explain to me. I'm not sure I understand your question.
Okay. Pre-filling forms is no problem.
Okay.
On the master seller template.
Okay.
Okay. For me, a lot of that stuff is just repeat. Is there any way of pre-filling the master template?
You can't have like a master template for all of Appfiles. Okay, because nothing is ever going to be the same in any app file. The only thing that's ever really going to be the same is your information.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I pre-fill that information or not?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a good question. I can find that answer out. Because I say they probably. I'm not going to say it doesn't happen because I don't know the answer. But because that would be the only thing that ever stays consistent. You know, it's a good question. I'll have to ask.
Appreciate that. Thank
No
you.
problem. I'm writing it down so I don't forget. Agent and broker info. Agent broker info. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yes, and that's absolutely true. I encourage all agents. You know, I have to say I have because I have a ton of training files, but I always tell, you know, when I have new agents in my office, I tell them set up one of each. You know, play with it, import, export. You can't really export, but you play with it. You can't break anything, you can't screw anything up, and all. You know, the more you do on like a temp file, just as long as you label it that it's a temp or a training file or a test file, you know, that way we know it's a test file and your managers aren't in there looking for a contract or something. Yeah, create a buyer file, create a seller file, label it as a test file, and have at it. Import, export, you know, again, you can't export out of Appfiles. That question came up earlier today from an agent in my office. Appfiles is a standalone platform. It doesn't talk to Moxie. It doesn't talk to the MLS. It doesn't talk to any other program outside. This is an in-house program only, okay? You can import from like the MLS, but you can't import from the tax records or any of that information. So again, Appfiles does not talk to any other program and share data from Appfiles out, okay? Yes. All right. Any other questions? Ask away. Ask away.
Kathy, I have one
Sure.
pertaining to the template, the master template. My question is, what should I call it? I filled out a master template in anticipation of showing this property, thinking it was going to go through, and I filled in everything on the master template. It did not go through. So I went back to the master template and I deleted all the information that had to do with that specific property. But I wanted to keep the rest of it in there because I'm continuing to show these people stuff. So what would I label that? I put pending, and I don't think that's right.
Well,
I can't put an address because there's no more address.
Well, what I recommend is right now specifically, because if you're working with a buyer, you're obviously writing multiple offers. Name the app file the name of your buyer. So instead of the address, let's just call it. See, the app file is just dragging. Rename the file name to your buyer's name. John and Sylvia, whatever. Okay. Right. Then when it comes to the template with the property information, you're going to have to change that. There's nothing, you know, but if you're a buyer, you can import from the MLS if you needed to. And it again, check and uncheck the boxes when you're filling in the template. But most everything's going to stay the same except for the property address, the legal address, you know. But if you import it or copy and paste it, that's unfortunately, I don't know a work around that, but at least no, you don't need to create a single app file every time right now. I would just create that one app file by your buyer's name. And if you do offer on 32 Bunker and it's not accepted, make sure you rename it, you know, offer rejected 32 Bunker. Because if you get 5 or 6 contracts in there on rejected offers, label them so you know which one is which one and which is good. Not just for yourself, but from a brokerage standpoint, that's our proof that we did our due diligence for that customer. We submitted the offer, you know, and that way it's all kept in app files.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good question. I don't know if I get you going. Yes and no. Barbara asked a question about, you know, putting them in an order. So this is, let me get my Appfiles home screen. When you're in there and you want to go into your Appfiles, again, looking at mine, don't freak out, but your Appfiles, you can filter them. You'd have to do it every single time. There's no way you can put it and save it as a default. But say you wanted to only see your active listings, you could click by file type and just show active listings, and that's all it's going to show you. Again, if you wanted to see all your buyer files, that's the only way I know of, or you can click on the file type and have it sort by file type, and then it would be buyers, sellers. None of your files are ever going to be hidden if they're quote unquote active app files, even if they're test files. That's why we always say if you have app files that are in there and an offer you put in and you've got 7 app files that the offers never went anywhere, change them, email your manager. They can move those out and put them in a hiding spot per se. They don't ever get deleted, but they can be out of your site if they're not good files anymore, as in like a dead file. Okay, your manager can code them as to what they feel that they need to be coded, whether it's a dead file or it can be a total test file because nothing was ever signed in the file. But that's about the only way that I know, and I know it's not permanent, that you would have to do it every time to sort it. But again, you just go to your My App Files and you just sort it by your type. I use that a lot here when I'm looking for a transaction by an agent. Okay. I have a couple here that, I have a couple of high producing teams in this office that I have to sort by them by type because they might have 25 pendings at one time or something. That way I'm not looking. But you can filter by this, then by this. You guys won't have user because you're the only one. But does that help? Even though it's not the greatest answer, Barbara, it's probably the best I got for you.
Thank you, Kathy. That's fine. It's just like, oh, that's dead. I don't want to look at it. So
that's why I say email Randy all your files that you don't want to look at.
Okay, cool. That's very helpful.
Yeah, if you have like a buyer file and you have if you have initials and signatures on a contract, even if it's all your buyer, we still have to legally save those for 7 years.
I understand that. Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
That way, Randy can just code them as dead, and that way you can just it'll still show up, but they won't. You can filter them by your pendings or active listings or buyers or sellers.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Any other questions? See, you got me up till almost time. I'm going to let you hang for another minute or two because I know somebody's always going to come up with a question. Did I get everybody's questions from chat? I think I did. Let's see. If I didn't, I think Terry's got them. Okay. Alrighty. I always like the questions. Bring questions. I like questions. It's easier for me to train off of what you guys need the most of than trying to teach the same thing all the time. So next week's Thursday class will be a beginner's class. So, and then the first and the third are going to be beginning classes. Second and fourth are like intermediate, this kind of class, open forum Q&A. So anything comes up in between, always feel that you can email or call me. And your ASE is always a very good resource. Your ASEs are pretty up to speed on this stuff. So, okay. No more questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you.
You get to see everybody on one screen. I have to scroll through to see you. So thank you all very much. And again, if you have any questions, holler, see your ASE, and y'all have a great day.
Thank you. You too, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kath.
Welcome. Bye, guys.